Hello, this is Mrs. Scarf. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create thorns and vines on your mandala design. Thorns and vines are fun to draw because you can make them wrap around elements in your design. You can add thorns. You could even add leaves inside of it. So it's a really fun way of incorporating a foreground, a middle ground, and a background to your mandala design. I have a basic design going right now, and I have added a few circles near the top. These circles are there to help me figure out how tall I want my vines to go and how low I want them to go. So it is not required for you to have a compass. If you watch my previous videos, I show you how to add circles without using a compass. But it is really helpful to have these circles to help guide you. Okay, so I'm going to get started now. In order to draw vines, first you need to figure out how closely knit you want your vines to be. Let me explain. In this design right here, my vines extend for 2 pies. So 1, 2. In this design, my vines are each 1 space wide. So it is up to you how wide you want your vines to be. For this design, I am going to create vines that take up 2 of my pies. So to get started, what you want to do is you want to decide where the center of the vines is, where they're going to intertwine with each other, and you want to draw a U shape in that area. Then you want to go up at the intersection, at the next intersection, and you want to draw a vine that goes up, and then you want to go and you want to keep repeating the same pattern of letter U's that go up and down. Okay, now that you have gone all the way around creating this wave pattern, now what you want to do is add thickness to your wave. So go through and decide how thick you want your vine to be, and keep that thickness consistent throughout your design, and go slow. Okay, now that you have gone through and created your vines, you can fix any areas that look a little weird. And now we're going to add our second vine that wraps around. So using the same technique as before, what you want to do is you want to go through and draw your wave that goes up and down, and try to keep the areas where it crisscrosses and where it ends consistent, because that's what's going to make it look nice and even. When you have completed your pattern that goes all the way around, go through and fix any areas that don't look right. Like if an area looks a little thin or a little thick, not curvy enough, this is where you get to fix all the irregularities and mistakes that you made. Okay, now we're going to decide which part of the vine is going to be above and which one goes below. So when I look at my vine right here, I want this area to go above. So I'm going to erase. And you pretty much keep erasing the same area all the way around, fixing any mistakes as you go along. And I'm erasing diagonally. Now, when I look at my vine, it should look like it is crisscrossing. The next part is probably the most fun part. This is where you get to decide which way the vines are going to wrap around the elements in your design. And I have a star design. And what I'm going to do is I am going to make the vine go in front of my star in this area. So I'm going to erase the star and I'm going to keep the vine in the front. And because this is a pattern, I have to do the same thing on all the spikes. Now the spike at the top, I think I'm going to leave the spike in front of the vine. So I'm going to be erasing the vine and leaving the spike on top. Okay, now I'm going to start wrapping vines around my star. And this is where you get to decide, which way the vine should go. When I look at this design, I'm going to try to follow the flow of the vine. So my vine is going in this direction, so I'm going to add a branch of my vine. And as I'm going, I'm paying attention to these grid lines that I have drawn to guide me as I draw. So I'm gonna make my offshoot come off the corner through the intersection of the star and the grid, and then let's see, which way do I want this to go? And then I'm gonna make it curve right here. Okay, but because this is a pattern, whatever I do to one area, I have to repeat the same pattern again. So I'm just going to follow this so that I remember how I made it. And then I'm going to turn my paper and I'm going to find the same intersection and I'm going to repeat the same pattern. Try to draw lightly as you're doing this. That way, if you make a mistake, you are able to go back and erase your mistake. Okay, now I am going to add thickness to my vine, just as I did with the other vines. And it's up to you whether you want the thickness to be on this side or on this side. And I'm going to add the thickness of my vine in this direction. And now I get to decide whether this vine is going in front or behind my star. And for the purposes of this design, I am going to put the vine behind. But obviously it is up to you to decide which way your vine is going to go. I have decided to put my vine behind because I already have a vine that wraps around the front. So this vine right here is going to go behind my star, not in front of it. When you're designing your mandala, try to have elements that are either in front or behind so that you can create a sense of depth. You want to have objects in the front, you want to have objects in the middle, and you want to have objects in the back. So right now I have some vines that are already on top of my mandala, therefore I am sending this one to the back. But your design is entirely up to you how you want to handle your vines. This is why it is important to keep your lines nice and light. That way, if you do decide to erase, you won't have problems erasing. Okay, now I am going to continue figuring out what else I want to do with these vines. And I think it would be fun if this vine ends up in front of my star and ends in a thorn. So I'm going to go through and pay attention to where things end and where things begin so that you can have a consistent design. So for example, this one right here is, follows the path of that line right there. So I need to make sure that all my thorns end up in a similar place. So that my design is consistent when I look at it. And if something doesn't look right, your eraser is your best friend. So. Okay, now I have these vines that wrap around the front of my star. And now I'm going to go through and add some thorns on my vine. And when you're doing thorns, you want to keep your design consistent. So if you put a thorn on in one area, then you have to repeat the same thing all the way around. And when you do your thorns, try to follow the flow of your line. So when I look at this, to me, the line is flowing in this direction. So I'm going to make my thorn flow in the same direction as my line. So I'm going to go here, there's a spike, and then there's the same location on so we go here, we skip one, and then it is the same location over here. And I'm going to keep repeating my pattern of thorns all the way around. Now I am going to add another set of thorns going in the opposite direction just to create some visual interest in my design. And remember to be consistent about your placement of elements, because when you look at a mandala, it is a circular pattern, and therefore in order to make that pattern satisfying to look at, you have to have elements that are placed in the same location all the way around. You can continue to add more vines to your design and wrapping around, but these are the basics of how you create these beautiful vines that wrap around the elements in your design. Remember to erase any lines that are not necessary. And vines are a wonderful way of creating foreground, middle ground, and background in your design. It is a way of tying everything together because the vines can wrap around elements in your design. Thank you for watching.